The World Series title with the Pirates in 1971. In that Fall Classic, he was 2-0 with a 1.00 ERA. He threw 2 complete games. I think most of you know what those are, right? Threw the entire game twice in the World Series, allowed 7 hits and struck out 13. He is the last National League pitcher to throw a complete game in Game 7 of a World Series. He was a 1972 National League All-Star when he went 19-8, finishing second in the Cy Young balloting that year behind the Phillies' Steve Carlton. In his 10-year big league career, he had 103 wins, all of them coming with the Pirates. And after his playing career, he spent over 30 years in Pittsburgh's broadcast booth, giving him 60 years in the Pirates organization. And just last year, he was one of 19 people inducted into the inaugural Pirates Hall of Fame class. Third time joining us here at the Hot Stovers. He was here last in 2015. Please welcome Steve Blass.
Thank you very much. That's the first time I've been introduced in the last 7 years without getting booed. So I appreciate that. It's great to be back. You guys have upgraded the whole program beautifully since I was here in 2015. All I've done is get old. So it's great to be back again. We got a lot of ground to cover tonight, but as Elizabeth Taylor told each one of her 8 husbands, don't worry, I won't keep you long, so we're going to be okay there. It has been a very difficult several years for the Pittsburgh Pirates recently. You know, in the game of baseball, there's always indicators to tell you whether you've been doing well or not doing well. Just a couple of things for the Bucks. I just got back from a fantasy camp. You all know what a fantasy camp is. It's a lot of older guys. Love baseball, come down for a week. They're major leaguers. They get uniforms like Pirate uniforms with numbers on the back and their own bats and bubblegum cards. So we got 4 games going on out of quad. Got about 80 players. And I'm going to get something in the locker room. Toward the locker room, there's a car that pulls up with Pennsylvania plates on it. And I walk by and there's a lady and her husband get out and they're looking on the fence and watching these guys. You know, by the 3rd or 4th game, none of them can walk. So beat up and everything. And the lady says to the husband, my God, I hope they get better by April. Where's been going? So now, last year I walk into a supermarket in Pittsburgh, I'm in the produce section, wandering around, and this old lady comes right up, gets in my face and says, the Pirates stink and it's your fault. I said, lady, I'm just here for the kumquats, you know, just give me a break. So it's been a little difficult. Tell you a little bit about my journey. As Steve said, I've been around a long time with the Pirates. They finally caught on to me, so I had to retire. But I'll tell you a little bit about my journey through baseball because I'm 80 years old. 63 of those years have been involved in baseball, so I got a little bit to work with. I won't go through my whole history of my life. We've got a lot of things to cover tonight, but I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, rural town, 800 people. It was so small we didn't even have a town drunk. The guys in the little town had to rotate until Uncle Larry got his turn. Rotation stopped. But I was obsessed with baseball like most baseball players when we were young. I wanted a baseball in my hand all the time. It even spilled over to summer vacation when I was little, 8, 9, 10 years old. First thing I did when I woke up was go to the window and look out and see if it was good enough to play baseball. I mean, just grow up with that obsession, and that, thank God, carried over. And when I was 18 years old, the Pittsburgh Pirates gave me a chance to live my dream. You know, everybody has dreams. Not everybody gets a chance to live them. And loyalty is a big thing for me. It's a big word for me. So no matter what happens to the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have my loyalty forever. And that's just the way it is. And they signed me, gave me that chance to live my dream. I went to the minor leagues. I won't tell you much about the minor leagues because it was a lot of bus rides. That's all it was. But I went to Kingsport, Tennessee, 18 years old, never been away from Falls Village, Connecticut. Stayed in a rooming house. Got down there about 2 weeks later. Okay, I got to go to the laundromat. I got some dirty underwear, some dirty socks, so I go down the street. And I throw my stuff in there. I got 6 pair of socks, 6 pair of underwear. I throw them in the thing, and I look up on the wall, and there's this vending machine. It says soap. Okay, well, I got 12 items, so I got 12 of those little boxes of soap. And pardon the expression, but the shit started coming out of the washing machine and I ran away. The rest of that summer, I mailed my laundry to my mother in Connecticut. A little box with straps around it. That worked good until she would send them back, and I sent them up one time, and she'd wash the clothes, and it was July, middle of July, hot, Kingsport, Tennessee. She put some homemade chocolate chip cookies in the clothes. You know the deal. You know the rest of that. What that went on. So I get the call after a lot of years in the minor leagues to the big leagues. Every major league athlete in every sport, they'll tell you about the call. That's what you've been dreaming about, right, since you're 8 years old. Tell you about my call. I was in AAA ball. I'd just been married 1 year to my wife Karen. We've been married 59 years plus 4 years of bad behavior in high school. So we got this little 1-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio. Got to AAA ball. I'm 1 step away, and we go on a road trip, 2-week road trip, all by bus. We go up to Buffalo, Rochester, to Syracuse. 2 weeks. We stink like billy goats by the end of that trip. So the last game in Syracuse is a 20-night doubleheader at the end of this whole thing. I pitch the last game, we shower up, get on the bus, go from Syracuse back to Columbus, Ohio. I go right to bed, I'm beat, I'm done. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings in our little apartment, and my wife picks it up and said, hello. This gentleman said, need to talk to Steve. And she says, well, I'm sorry, he's had a real long night, and it's a very difficult situation. He's sleeping and he needs his rest, so I'm not gonna wake him up. He said, I really need to talk to Steve. She said, listen, mister, my new husband is a professional athlete, and he's got a lot to rest up for. He needs his strength and everything, and I'm not going to wake him up. He said, young lady, my name is Joel Brown. I am the general manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we'd like to have Steve come up and pitch for us. The next sound you heard in that little 1-room apartment was, get your ass out of bed, we're going to the big leagues. That's how I got the call. But the great thing about getting called up, I never got a chance to go to college. I couldn't have gotten to college if my hair was on fire. You might think it was. But I consider myself really seriously of having gone to the University of Baseball. And my professors at that university were Bill Mazeroski, Willie Stargell, Roberto Clemente, Bob Friend, Vernon Law. And they helped me go from being a ball player to a major leaguer. And believe me, there's a big difference. There's a lot of ball players. There aren't all that many major leaguers. And taught me how responsibility to your city, to your organization, to your teammates, all these things, how to deal with the media, how to deal with the fans, the kids. And they taught me a great lesson about dealing with the kids. They said, if you get a kid coming in with his parents, he's 6 years old, he's intimidated, he's out on the field with you, you're hulking over this big man. Bob Friend said, get down on one knee. Get eye to eye with that kid, puts him at ease. He said, hey, Jimmy, I've been waiting for you all afternoon. Would you please have time for me to take a picture with you? All it takes is, and Bob said it this way, all it takes is a minute to make a moment. All it takes, and I think we can all consider that. If somebody has the time to take a minute to call, hey, how are you doing? I understand your son is ailing or anything. All it takes is a minute to make a moment. I've tried to deal with that for the rest of my life. It only takes a minute. Only takes a minute. Phone call, some concern. But they also had a sense of humor. For instance, Roberto Clemente. My rookie year was 1964, and I won a couple of games. Now I'm all puffed up. I'm a major leaguer. I got it figured out. So I go into the ballpark at Forbes Field one afternoon. Clemente's sitting over in his locker. It's just me and him. I go over and said, hey, Robbie. I call him Robbie. That's 20 years old. Juvenile was. I said, here's how it's going to be. Here's the deal. If I ever get traded, I'm going to pitch you inside because everybody in the National League pitches you away, and you hit 350 every year. He said, Blass, I'm going to tell you one thing. You pitch me inside, I will hit the ball to Harrisburg. I said, good talk. Another baseball life lesson. And more about Clemente in a minute, but Bill Mazeroski, who never said a word to anybody, just greatly respected where everybody played and everything, just took care of second base. The only thing, and he's a Hall Hall of Fame. How about me? I got the chance to pitch in front of 3 Hall of Famers. Maz at second, Stars at first, Clemente in the outfield. Anyway, Maz, one of the best ever. I never saw anybody play second base like him. The only thing he didn't like it when a Pirate pitcher was getting beat up, and they would ask him to go over and talk to the pitcher. Well, they had time to go get somebody warmed up in the bullpen. That's the only thing he didn't like, because he respected everybody's position. So one night, I'm out there, my rookie year, I'm getting my face ripped off. My ERA is going up higher than the price of gas was in 1974. And so Danny Murtaugh, the manager, signaled out to Maz, hey Maz, go talk to Blass, go talk to Blass when we get somebody, ready, because he's getting killed. So Maz comes over, like he always was, and he goes, it's not my idea. They made me do this. I don't want to be there. You know what? You are getting your ass kicked. Thanks, Bill. A lot of the stories happen and involve rookies. Just this way it's happened. And we had a rookie when he came up in 1969, Manny Sanguillen. What a great catcher. He had a great career. If it wasn't for bench probably in the 70s, he might have been regarded as the best catcher in the National League. And he spoke better English in 1968 when we brought him up than he does now. So I am the lucky pitcher to work with Manny Sanguillen, his first major league catching assignment against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. First ever, and I'd been out for a couple of years, so I went out there, and they get us out 1, 2, 3 in the first. I go out for the bottom of the first inning, 2 base hits and a walk. I got the bases loaded. I think I can still hear the anthem. It happened so quick. Bases loaded, nobody out, and who's coming up? Ernie Banks, 500 career home runs, Hall of Famer. And Manny Sanguillen decides at that point to have his first ever pitching conference. Always had a smile on his face, so turns around, calls time, comes out, big smile on his face, lifts the mask and says, oh, you know, and then goes back. I didn't know, but he puts out 3 fingers, I throw a slider, Ernie hits him in Lake Michigan. I guess I did know. It's just a short second chapter to that. 5 days later, it's my turn to pitch again. Sangy gets his second ever catching assignment in the big leagues against the Atlanta Braves. We're down in Atlanta. Same thing, they get us out, deja vu, 2 infield hits and a walk, only it's not Ernie Banks coming up now, it's Henry Aaron. At that point, bases loaded, nobody out, Henry Aaron. Sangy decides to have his second ever catching pitchers, whatever it is. And he turns around, time out, comes back out, lifts the back, big smile on his face and said, oh, you throw double play. I can call Sears and order a double play. And he comes back, that's it. Puts down 1 finger, I wind up and let go of the ball. You ever have those dreams where everything slows down? As the ball gets closer and closer to Henry, Henry's eyes get bigger, and he just crushes the ball, but he doesn't get under it. Line shot, line drive, knocks 3 bricks out at Fulton County Stadium. Everybody scores, stand up, 3-run double, Manny Sanguillen. Come out, come back, listen man, big smile on his face. I don't say double, I say double play. By that time, Murtaugh's out there, and I'm gone again. It's my fault, of course. So those rookie things. So as a result of me not doing too well in my rookie year, I was sent down to the Florida Winter Instruction League. It's a league that takes place in the autumn, and a lot of teams send their highly regarded prospects down to Florida. Doesn't count on your record, but it's supposed to accelerate your travels up through the minor league system to get to the big league. So I was not regarded as a prospect anymore, more of a suspect, so I got sent down there. While I was there, the Pirates signed a boy by the name of Harold McClellan. And he was everything a Harold McClellan should be, a big, tall farm boy from Iowa, could throw a cherry through a battleship, and the Pirates signed him and sent him down to the instruction league to give him a little introduction to professional baseball. And we played all the tricks that you play on rookies. We sent them after left-handed bats. We sent them after the key to the batter's box. We should have been tipped off. He found these things, you see. So that was Harold. So the next day after he got there, maybe a week after, the manager, we worked on a lot of defensive fundamentals. He got us all out in the outfield there in Bradenton, Florida, sat us down, and we went over the defensive plays that the Pirates had that we would have to deal with if we got to the big leagues. One of them was the defense of the double steal. That's when a team has runners on first and third, we're in the field, and the guy takes off from first to steal second, and when he's doing that, he throws to second base, and the guy comes in from third. That's the double steal. We had a very simple defensive play for that. But when we found out that they were going to do that, we let everybody know, and what would happen is our pitcher would get his stretch, he'd throw the pitch to home, the guy would take off from first to steal second, so the catcher would lean up, throw it through to second, and the pitcher reaches up, picks it off, throws it right back to the catcher, and you got the guy coming in from third. 2 hours. 2 hours in the hot sun down there in Great. We worked on that play. The next day, we worked a situation where we got the 2-1 lead in the bottom of the 9th inning, and we find out that the runners that the White Sox have are on first and third, and they're going to try the double steal. We've got fabulous Harold Clem out on the mound. Fabulous Harold's watching airplanes land out in Sarasota Airport. Anything's better than working back on that farm in Iowa. So we got Harold out on the mound, and we find out they're going to try the double steal. So we let everybody know our defensive play. We just worked on it 2 hours the day before. The outfielders got it, the infielders got it, the parking lot attendant across the street has got it. We are so ready for these guys. So Harold goes into the stretch, throws the pitch, the guy takes off from first to steal second, the catcher rears up, guns it through, and Harold's got it. Okay? No. Harold ducks. So Harold ducks, but we still got a chance because the second baseman cuts across in front of the second base. He's got it. Now he throws it back to home plate, and now Harold's got it. I could have thrown a little bit better, but Harold's back in Iowa now. So those kind of things can happen. Baseball is such a game of stories. One of my favorites came about when Casey Stengel took over with the New York Mets, having the worst record in the history of Major League Baseball. They were like 40 and 162 or some worst record ever. And they also had the worst player ever, Marv Throneberry. Marvelous Marv, they called him. So that horrendous deal with Casey Stengel, the new manager with the New York Mets, and they got Marv on first base that one night, and nobody knows how he got there. He'd never been there all year, so Casey's in the dugout. The next Met hits a gap shot, and Marvelous Marv comes all the way around to score. The other team gets the ball, we get the ball, somebody gets the ball, they tag third base, they call Marv out. Casey explodes out of the dugout, he's ready to argue with the umpire. The umpire says, Casey, stay right there. He also missed second. I do have to tell you about playing in the World Series in 1971 because that's what everybody dreams about. And, you know, I wear this ring and I don't think about the money because we didn't get much money for it. But when I look at this, I think of the guys that I played with. You know, not just the Clementis and the Willie Stargills, but a guy like Gene Kleins or Dave Cash or Manny Sanguian. All those guys that you go through. If you wind up winning the World Series, you've got to go through 30 games of spring training and 162 games, playoffs, World Series, come out on top. And you don't forget those people. You know, Matt, you went through that. Billy, I'm sorry what happened in 71 with the Orioles. I just want to apologize. And 79. but you think about those guys, and it's what you dreamed about, and I had a chance to live that. Clemente had a chance to show everybody around the baseball world what we had been seeing for so many years. And he was the MVP, and it was just great to have that opportunity to watch it. I couldn't take my eyes off Roberto Clemente. I mean, he was fascinating. He played right field like it was choreographed. And then he ran the bases like he was secretariat, everything flying around, but he always got there in time. How lucky I was from this small town in Connecticut, Henry, Puerto Rico. The planets aligned, and I had a chance to watch him perform. I feel honored to have been around him for 10 years. But the way that the series wound up, we were behind 2-0 to a great team. I was telling Bill that the headlines after game 2 were the Orioles are going to win this series in 3 games. It was that lopsided after 2 games. I pitched the game of my life in game 3, and I want to bring that up because after the game I was getting interviewed by Tony Kubek down the first baseline in Three River Stadium. The dugouts are about 10 feet above the ground level. And I'm doing this interview and I'm looking around, and there's a guy trying to get through security up on top of the dugout. And as I was doing the interview, he jumps off the top of the dugout, and when he hits the ground after 2 steps, I see it's my dad. It's my dad. And I wouldn't insult your emotions by making that up. My father, this plumber from this little town in Connecticut, was not going to be denied to get down on that field to see his kid win the World Series. We all have fathers, or have had fathers, with singular moments with our fathers. I will never forget that the rest of my life. My dad was going to get on that field. You know, the one thing I respect so much about Major League Baseball is professionalism. I would like to see as much as I possibly can, but in that World Series, there was a little moment with Clemente and Frank Robinson. That series was kind of billed as the battle between the 2 greatest right fielders. I don't know why they left Aaron out, but anyway, so that was one of the headlines. But anyway, early in the series, Frank Robinson playing right field. Clemente is up, Memorial Stadium, and Clemente hits a ball. It's a home run, but it just barely makes it. And Frank Robinson has got his back to the wall. And as the ball clears the wall, and on the World Series highlight film, just before the camera goes away, Frank Robinson does this, tip of the cap. And the little subtle thing, doesn't mean a lot, doesn't get a headline. I won't forget that. That respect that Robinson showed by that small little gesture, that still resonates with me. And I see it every time we watch the highlight video at home before dinner. And then we have dinner and then we watch it again. It's really one of my favorite movies. So I get to pitch the last game of the World Series, and it's just a thrill. In the 7th inning, I really did that, and this is one of the true stories I tell. In the 7th inning, we're ahead 1-0, and I went out to warm up for the bottom of the 7th. I got the ball, picked up the ball, and it just took a little walk around the mound. Honest to God, I did that, and I took it all in because I never knew if I'd ever be there again, and I wasn't. But I wanted to have that image of the enormity of pitching in the World Series. Dreamed of that since I was a kid, and took it all in and then went back to work. So now, it's the bottom of the 9th inning. I've got a 2-1 lead, and I've got Boog Powell with 2-1 lead, and then I got Frank Robinson with a 2-run lead, and then Merv Redmond. So I get let me just tell you how hard it is to throw strikes when you're pissing your pants. I mean, it's all there, and the enormity is there. But anyway, I got Boog to ground out to second base, and then Frank Robinson. I had pitched game 3, 4-hitter or 3-hitter, giving up 1 run. That was a Frank Robinson home run. So I'm thinking, oh, what if this happens again if I hang a slider? So what do? I wind up. He wants a slider, so I'm going to waste a slider. I let go of the ball, and I say, oh my God. And I looked up and I said, Lord, if you let me get away with this one, I'll be a good boy for the rest of my life. And he popped it straight up in the air. And as it started coming down, I said, I was just kidding. But the release after the last out of the World Series is unbelievable. It's the dream. And a buddy of mine said, you've made a living off that for the last 50 years. And I said, yeah, 2 games you pitched and you're making a living off. I said, yes, I am. So that's all right. But it's just a treat to be here. Always. This is a great event because all baseball people. I spoke to a group of salespeople last year or last week, and bumbling around, and they don't get it. You guys get it. You've been a great baseball audience for all these years, all these events. So it's great to be back. And I don't have any real advice other than to say, again, it only takes a minute to make a moment. But we got a lot of people to acknowledge. We got 2 gentlemen you're going to love hearing about. So again, thank you for letting me be here. If I have any advice, it's just be a little kinder. I think it will make the world be a little bit better. So. had one question to ask me. He wanted to know if I ever hit a home run.
You did. Ken Holtzman in 1959.
Well, the thing is, it's so long ago, 50 years ago, I don't remember much about it except it was September 5th, 1969. Ken Holtzman was a pitcher, winds out of the southwest at 5 miles an hour. 45%, 73 degrees, 23,012 people in the stadium. The rest of it's kind of vague, but the great thing was, I ran toward first base, and he said, take a left. So I had all these people back up to the right.
I got a question for you, Steve. How many other hits did you have in that game?
I went 4 for 5.
You did have 4 hits in that game, that is correct. He had 21 hits that year back when pitchers played baseball, right?
Billy Williams went 4 for 4. I pushed a 4-hitter.
Yep, Billy Williams had the only hit against him in that game. He was 4 for 4. Nobody else in the Cubs lineup had a hit that day.
Yeah, if he's sick, I'm in Cooperstown.
I don't want to be judgmental, but 6 pairs of socks, 6 pairs of underwear, 2 weeks. I think the chocolate chip cookies were the least of your problems.
I worked on a farm in a small town.
I'm not judging at all. He's awesome, isn't he? Steve Blass, everybody.